Call is being recorded.
All right, Shalom Aleichem to all who have watched my previous recordings and videos, and now this one today. Shalom Aleichem and welcome. Welcome to another revelation of a mysterious parable that I posted a couple of days ago on social media's Facebook. I welcome you and I encourage you at this time to grab hold to your King James Version Holy Bible, a Strong's Concordance, if you have one, by James Strong. Grab hold to a dictionary and a synonym finder if you have one. We're not going to take up too much of your time. This is merely a revelation of a parable that I posted on social media's Facebook, that a few people have read that parable on Facebook and they're wondering, what does it mean? And it is a mystery. And I'm going to share that mystery, which is also historical. Inside that parable is a law that pertains to Israel, all of Israel, all 12 tribes of Israel, and today, especially Yehuda, the fourth tribe. So as you grab your study tools, remember, grab something to write with. Grab hold to a writing utensil and something to write on. Grab a notepad and write what you're about to hear and take notes, and what you're about to see. Now, before we get started, and we're going to confirm the day and date that this is being recorded, as we always do, according to two calendars are ruling and governing time today. Well, actually, there's only one calendar that's governing and ruling time. That's the solar calendar. The other calendar that I'm going to mention in a few moments is a mimic, an imposter, should you prefer. The first calendar is a solar calendar. Our solar calendar is ruled by the sun, S-U-N, of the universe, that's lighting up all planets of the universe, which of course is also symbolic for S-O-N, the same sun that's lighting up the whole universe. And according to that calendar, the solar calendar, celestial, today is the 14th day of the 6th month. Again, today is the 14th day of the 6th month, and that is until sundown, which right now we're looking at around 3 o'clock in the p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am on the East Coast of the United States, as I have always been. I have not moved. I am still in a state called Florida, the 27th state of the 50 that were joined as united under the Constitution of the United States after July 4th, 1776. Of course, there were only 48 that are conjoined together as a landmass of land, 48 conjoined states, and later Alaska and Hawaii were joined with the 48 to become 50. And of course, Florida is the 27th state of the 50 to become a state independently from the Queen of England at that time. So again, today is the 14th day of the 6th month of our solar calendar. The year is 6027. Not to be confused now with June 14th. This is not June 14th of their calendar. This is the 14th day of the 6th month of our solar calendar. Now, according to that calendar that I just mentioned, that is the lunar calendar by Pope Gregory and Julius Caesar calendar. Keep in mind that this month is known as August. And speaking of Julius Caesar, Augustus, and Pope Gregory, this month is named after Augustus, who was also an emperor of Rome, who succeeded Julius Caesar. Now, last month, according to that calendar, was July, and we all know that. That month was named after Julius Caesar, and that month, of course, was named July after Julius Caesar because that was the month that he came out of a womb that they call a birthday today. He came out of the womb in July. So he named the month of his birthday July after Julius. And his successor, which is Augustus, he also came out of a womb. He was born in a month called August today. So since it being that Julius Caesar named a month after himself, then Augustus, the emperor of Rome, named a month after himself. And that is why, that will explain, if you had not known this, that would explain why July and August are the only 2 months back to back that has exactly 31 days on that calendar. They're the only 2 months back to back with 31 days. All of the months except February, which is a month of the shortest of the 12, with 28 months, usually with 28 days, except for leap year, like this year's a leap year. So opposed to February having 28 days, they added a day. That's a leap year. And this year, which is the year 2024, July has 29 days. And all other months are, every other month is a 30-day or 31-day. For example, January, 31 days. February, depending on leap year, 28 days or 29 days. March, 31 days. April, 30. June, 30. May 31, June 30, July 31, and August 31. That's where we are today. And that will explain what month this is. It's August, named after Augustus. And this is the 20th day of August. It's a Thursday. Well, actually, it's a Tuesday. There are only 2 days of the week that begins with a T. It doesn't matter if it's Tuesday or Thursday. They both begin with a T, and it doesn't matter because they're named after gods of Greece. So today is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024. And tomorrow, of course, will be Wednesday, and then we come to Thursday and Friday, etc. of that calendar. That's just for the record. Thought we'd give you a little bit of their history of how their days and how their months and years are governed by them and how they're recognized by the people of the world today. So we thought we'd get that out of the way. Again, solar time, this is the 14th day of the 6th month, 6027, and lunar time by Pope Gregory's calendar is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024. Now, with that out of the way, let us go ahead and get started on this revelation of the mystery of the parable that I posted on social media's Facebook the other day, and a post. And if you saw that post, here's what it reads. I'm going to read that post. That post read, and I quote, God, in all caps, God gave her white paper, comma, and your pen is black. Your pen is black, period. Now, what do ye write? R-I-G-H-T, comma, Judah, question mark. And that followed with 3 scriptures. The first in the King James Version Bible that I asked you earlier to grab hold to. That would be in Daniel chapter 2, and verses 40 through 45. And Genesis, the first book, Genesis chapter 49, verse 10. And then Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6. And I believe that's what we have. And our post is prophetical. So first, let us take a look at the scriptures that were posted. The first would be Daniel chapter 2 and verses, begin at verse 45. So let's grab hold of the Bible and let's take a look at that. Let's see what that reads. the King James Version, Daniel chapter 2. And I'm going to go to my Bible as you grab hold of yours. And we're going to go to the book called Daniel. And I'm going to start from verse 40. Verse 40. And that reads, as I quote, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." Verse 41. "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay." Verse 42. "And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken." Verse 43. "And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." Verse 44. "And the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. They shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." And finally, verse 45. "For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king which shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure." End quote. End of verse 45, Daniel chapter 2. Now let's go to, so in other words, a synopsis, just a quick summary of what that is. That is all cryptic, and it's allegorical, symbolic, and it's full of metaphor and allegories. And this verse is actually speaking of people, beings of different nations, European nations along with Judah and Israel. It's dealing with people, especially women. And the woman is hidden in the clay. But you see a C-L-A-Y, as you saw in verses 43 and 45. You saw clay, and the clay first appeared in verse 41. And that clay without, see, there's no more sea. There's no more sea according to Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. There's no more sea. And that sea is a homophone that you see in verse 1 of Revelation chapter 21. You see S-E-A in verse 21, but that's a homophone for the third English alphabet or letter known as C. So since there's no more sea, when this revelation be revealed in the latter days of Daniel chapter 2 and verse 41, then there will be no more sea. So when you take that sea away, all you have is L-A-Y, and then you have miry. That miry is also a mixture of different people, different nations. One nation that will lay with another nation. Remember, without the sea, you have L-A-Y, that's lay. And you will find the revelation of that, which would be the image mingled in verse 43, that shall mingle themselves. See, mingle themselves mean other nations will mingle themselves. The miry clay will mingle themselves with other men, the seed of men. The men are of Judah, but they shall not cleave one to another. And in verse 44, These that will come to want to lay with Judah, the other seeds of the mingled people of Europe, they will, in other words, they will look for a man of Judah to mix their seed with their eggs to create people that would be mixed in hopes that they would be entering into the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of Shalom that would be built by the one who was prophesied to come today, that you find in chapter 12 of Daniel, in verse 1, known as Michael, also known as Christ. So that's the little mystery of what that means and what that entails in Daniel chapter 2, between verses 40 and 45. And that's not going to be our subject. I just wanted to get you a quick synopsis on why that particular passage, Bible passage, was referred to in this parable of the paper and the pen. Now, the second scripture lets you know it was Judah that was being spoken of, which is a law. So that would be Genesis now, the first book, Genesis chapter 49. So let's go to that. Genesis chapter 49, the first book of your Bible, chapter 49 and verse 10. But keep it in mind in verse 1, as I bring you back up to reverence. Verse 1 says, and Jacob called unto his sons, as I quote, and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. End quote. Verse 1. So now we're in the last days. There's no doubt about it. No doubt. We're in the last days. And verse 10, a reference to that post that I posted, says, I quote, verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. End quote. Now, how does that tie in with the post? Well, there's a law. There's a law that was given to Israel that Israel and all the tribes have broken. And what law is that? That law is found in Leviticus, that you are not to mix tribes. No tribe is to go and mix with another tribe. All tribes are supposed to stay within themselves. Levi or Lavi with Lavi, and Dan with Dan, and Naphtali with Naphtali, and Gad with Gad, and etc., and so on, and Judah with Judah, and so on. And that means, for example, Lavi was not supposed to mix with Yehuda. Gad is not supposed to mix with Benjamin. Asher not supposed to mix with Naphtali. That's the law. And when Shiloh returns, the last days, Shiloh is going to enforce that law and bring that law back to the remembrance of Judah and all other 11 tribes of Israel, other 11 tribes. But since Shiloh has disappeared and was gone, that law has been broken. And other nations, they even allowed other women, Judah, to mix with their tribe of people, which is against the law. And that is confirmed that Shiloh will bring this back to law and bring it back into enforcement, because he did not change. And that will explain Malachi chapter 3, as we now go to Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6. As I quote that, Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6. And that says, as I quote, for I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. End quote. So it being that Israel was chosen, to see, remember that this is Jacob. It didn't say the sons of Israel. It says the sons of Jacob are not consumed. It has nothing to do with Israel. Jacob. And you go back to Genesis chapter 49 and verse 1, and you'll see that it was referring to both the sons of Jacob and Israel's sons. Go back to that for a moment so you can take a look. You don't confuse yourself. The sons of Jacob are not consumed. That means the sons of Jacob were never spoiled with the sons of Israel. The sons of Jacob are here today. That's the reason why Remember, he was called Israel. He wasn't named Israel. Or did you not know that? Go take another look at Genesis chapter 49, look at verse 1 again and verse 2. Verse 1 says again, as I quote, and Jacob, or Jacob, called unto his sons, and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. End quote. Now, had that been printed to be ye, ye, opposed to you, as you see here, then that ye would have been referring to the whole tribe. He would have been talking to more than one. But did you not know the difference between you and ye? But had you not known the difference between you and ye, when you study it, you'll find that you is speaking to one person, one. When you add the ye, then he's speaking to more than one person, speaking to two or more. Here in verse 1, he's speaking to you, Jacob, and not Israel. Why? Because Israel is in verse 2. Take a look and see. As I quote, verse 2, gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel, your father. Why? Because Israel is hard-headed, but Jacob is not. That's why the sons of Jacob are not consumed. Let's go look at the difference. Go back to now chapter 32. Go back to chapter 32 again. It's the same book. And let's clear this up for those who did not know and do not study. He did not name him. He called him. Now, in verse 26, Genesis chapter 32, I quote, it reads, I quote, well, let's start from verse 24. Verse 24, as I quote, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Verse 25, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And Jacob's thigh is still out of joint today. Why? Because Jacob did not joint in with any other people, but Israel did. Jacob is still here, and his sons are not consumed. He was not joint with other people, other nations. Verse 26 says, and he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. This the angel is telling Jacob, let me go. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. That's what Jacob is saying. And remember, this man wrestled with Jacob. Wrestled a man with Jacob in verse 24. That means Jacob did not wrestle with the man. That wrestled a man with him, Jacob, until the break of the day. And that's not Jacob wrestled with a man. That wrestled a man with him until the break of the day. So what's the difference? Well, Jacob was not powerful enough to wrestle with the man. That's why the man wrestled a man with him, to show his strength. For Jacob to learn the strength of the man that wrestled with him. And because he didn't prevail, as you see in verse 25, and when you saw that he prevailed not against him, then he became a blessing. Automatically, he was blessed. And Jacob kind of knew that he would be blessed because he asked for the blessing in verse 25. Except actually verse 26. So he said, the angel said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. Well, I'm going to separate you from me and Jacob, because you prevailed not against me. He said, thy name shall not be called no more Jacob, but Israel. Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed. You got the mystery now? It does not say, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. Show it to me. Take a look at it again, verse 28. So you couldn't see that before because there's a veil over your mind. Again, verse 28, and he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, colon. For a prince has thou power with God and with men, and has prevailed. Why? Because Israel prevailed. Israel prevailed, but Jacob prevailed not against him. Don't you see it? Go back up to verse 25. Actually, look at verse 24 again. Take the veil from over your heart, off your mind. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the break of the day. Verse 25. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint with the rest of the nations on the planet as he wrestled with him. And when he knows that, Jacob wanted a blessing, knowing who he was, and said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And Jacob said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me, in verse 26. And he said to him, well, what is thy name? He said, Jacob. That's what he thought. Yaakov in Hebrew. And he said, thy name shall not be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. So how could he go from not prevail and prevail? Jacob prevailed not, but Israel prevailed. Is Israel prevailing today? Go look in the Middle East. See, this was hidden to be a codex for thousands of years until I return to reveal the mystery. That's why the sons of Jacob are not consumed. Why? Because Israel is going to be consumed. Don't you see what Israel is today? Look, go in the Middle East, look at Israel. That means I had to protect all of the sons of Israel by letting them remain to be Jacob. When I come back, they'll be Jacob. That way, there's no mistake on who's going to be destroyed. Jacob would not be destroyed, but Israel will be destroyed, and they're being destroyed now. And it's not Gaza or other nations that's going to destroy Israel, as they think they're destroying these man-made weapons. The God of Hebrews is going to destroy Israel, but Jacob, you will not be consumed. You will not be destroyed. You got the mystery? No, you couldn't get it before. What makes you think you can get it now? It's a lot deeper than that. I'm only giving you a preview. I'm only giving you a slight revelation to let you know that Jacob asked him and said in verse 29, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? Why you want to know my name? Anyway, he blessed him there. The angel did. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. Why? For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved until the end. And that God is not the big uppercase Lord. That God, the same small God that's here today on this planet with his people. The same God. Anyway, that takes care of going back to Genesis chapter 49 and then back to Genesis chapter 32, so you can see the difference between Jacob's sons not consumed and Malachi chapter 3, verse 6. And what are those in the last days between Israel and Jacob, his sons? Now let's go to the revelation of the parable. The revelation of the parable is found back in Facebook. So as we go back to Facebook and look at that parable, once again, we just gave you the answer, but now we're going to break it down for you even more. We gave you the answer, but you still couldn't see it. So we're going to break it down for you even more. So what is the answer? Let's take a look. Let's go take another look at the parable. and dealing with paper. And that would be right here. As we search that. Here. Okay. Here we have it. I quote again. God gave her white paper. God gave her white paper. Your pen is black. Now, what do you write, Judah? We just read the scriptures. So here's the mystery. First of all, where's the white paper? White paper is an allegory. Go to John chapter 2 of your Bible. John chapter 2. Let's see what kind of paper this is today. John chapter 2 in your New Testament. And let's look at verse 10. John chapter 2, verse 10. Actually, begin at verse 9. Verse 9. I quote, when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, in parentheses, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom. Verse 10, and saith unto him, every man at the beginning thus set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. Verse 11, this beginning of miracles did the Christ in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him. Now, I made that emphasis to let you know that only the disciples of Christ is going to believe what's going to be revealed now. Only the disciples. All others will not. All those will not believe. All others. Only the disciples. Look down at verse 17. And his disciples remembered that it was written on what? On scrolls, not paper. What? The zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. Verse 18. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things? Verse 19. And Christ answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And right away they thought the temple was a structure, a building. But verse 20 begins to clear it up. And it reads, then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But what they didn't know in verse 21, but he spake of the temple of his body. Verse 22, when therefore he was risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this unto them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Christ had said. And the temple is the body. Verse 23, now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, in the feast day, many believed in his name, but they saw the miracles which he did. But in verse 24, that Christ did not commit himself unto them. Why? Because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. So what was in man and what is in man today? That goes back to the post, and that is his pen. His pen is black. His pen is black. Now look at 2 John. Go to 2 John. See, we're dealing with John now, right now, for a moment. So that was not paper that was written on as you do write on paper today. That was an allegory. That was scrolls that were written. They were using scrolls. But see, in 2 John chapter 1, I'm not going to write on scrolls today. Not today. I have to write on paper. But what kind of paper? Look at verse 12. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 9. Verse 9. 2 John chapter 1. There's only one chapter in 2 John. Verse 9. And that reads, Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. So it's not just the Son, it's the Father and the Son. And verse 10 says, If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house. Neither had him Godspeed. Do you see that? Neither bid him Godspeed. Verse 11, For he that abideth at God's speed is partaker of his evil deeds. You need to keep that in mind. I'm going to read that again, verse 10. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house. Neither bid him Godspeed. Verse 11, For he that bideth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Why? Verse 12, Having many things to write unto you, I would not write with paper and ink. This is a mystery of the parable. I'm answering the question of the parable on my post. Having many things to write unto you, I would not write with paper and ink, but I trust to come unto you and speak face to face, even on Facebook as I'm doing now, or on YouTube as I'm doing now, or on our conference line as I'm doing now, that our joy may be full. So I'm not writing with paper or pen. The children of thy elect, such to greet thee. Selah is verse 13. It's the last verse of 2 John chapter 1. So you see, the parable that I left on Facebook has nothing to do with the paper. It has nothing to do with the paper. It has nothing to do with the literal paper. That paper represents a people, a person, a particular species of people. This people, the species of people is a female. In fact, now when you go to your strong concordance, what you're going to do, you should go to your strong concordance now and go ahead and type in paper in your concordance. Type in paper. And as you type in this paper, it's going to take you to only 2 verses in the whole Bible, in King James Version, where paper is found. One is in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 7. And the second, of course, is what we just read in the New Testament, 2 John chapter 1 and verse 12. Now, this paper first appears as a paper reed in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 7. What you think is reeds. See, these are all allegories and homophones. Allegories, homophones, prophetical, and metaphors. I'm going to read Isaiah chapter 19, verse 7. I'm going to read it verbatim, and then I'm going to translate it for you for today. that I don't come to you with paper or with ink, but I come face to face. So with paper and with ink or scrolls, is written this way in transliteration into English from Hebraic, as I quote, "The paper reads by the brooks, by the mouth of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more," end quote. That was literal, and that was for today's English transliteration. Now I'm going to read it again in the metaphorical transliteration and in the homophone transliteration. And that means it's going to sound like this. The paper reads. That's R-E-A-D-S, not R-E-E-D-S. The paper reads. How does the paper read? By the books. Remove the R. By the books. So far you have the paper reads by the books. By the books. By the mouth of the books. The book. And the books. There's two books. My father's a book, and I am a book. By the books. So the paper reads by the books. What's the paper? The law is on the paper. Shiloh has brought the paper back. The paper back. By the mouth of the books. And everything sown was sown. That's the son who owns it. That's S-O. Now you remove the W of S-O-W-N. You see sown. But I see the son own. Remove the W, you have son. Remove the S, you have own. You have son owned by the books that I got from my father, from the Peace Foundation. I own the books that he wrote. And I also wrote books. But those who do not read the books shall wither. So you have to have the reeds up to the top by the books. If you don't have the books to read, you shall wither and be driven away as they have, and be no more as they're not today. Where are they? Where are those from the back of the days of my art? Where are they? Where are they today? Withering away. Those who have not withered away already, also known as died. Now, when you click on the meaning of this reads in Isaiah to get to the paper, it's going to take you to H6169, Ara. Ara. And it means a bare place. A bare place. Ara. And also to be naked under H6168 means to be naked. To be naked, to be bare, to be nude. That means there are some people that are of paper. They have the paper-like skin that are going to be nude, that's going to attract my men of Judah by the brooks, by the water, by the books, to try and mingle their eggs with his seed today. That means this paper will be pale. Remember, paper is white. So when you look at, again, Strong's H6169 is taken to a bare place. And 6168, the etymology takes you to be nude. So this paper will be nude. We look at a nude paper by the books that you're going to read, that you read. Even as you look in her eyes, Judah, you're reading her mind. And she's reading you. And all of a sudden, when you connect them eyes and you're reading one another, you think it's a good thing. But it's not. Shallow says it's not. That's proven as we move on and go to the Greeks. This paper would be by the Greeks. This paper would come from Europe. That's what's going to come from, Europe. Go to the other paper and see. That'll be in John, 2 John that we read earlier. This paper is going to come from John. 2 John chapter 1, verse 12. That's why I'm not going to come right to you with paper, but face to face, as I'm doing now. I'm coming to you face to face right now, and not with paper, because this paper is not what you think it is. If this paper is what you think it is, I put R-I-G-H-T. I didn't put R-I-T-E in that post. So it gives you the right to go to this paper. And all the time you think your pen is black. It is black. But you think that's an ink pen. I didn't put ink in that parable. Look at the paper in the Greek's dictionary, in the Greek Strong's Concordance, on the G 5489. 5489. It takes you right to paper. That's all they're going to give you. Why? Deception. Deception. When you go to its etymology, which is 5482, then it tells you this paper is pale. It's pale. A pale or a steak. A pale or steak. A pale or steak. And then it also tells you that there's a palisade. A palisade. And now this is where you get your dictionary. Do you know what a palisade is? What's the palisade? What is palisade? Do you know what that is? Well, according to the dictionary, it's a fence or wooden stakes of iron railings of palisade. That fence is supposed to be posted between you, your nation, Israel, Judah, Jacob, and other nations. There's supposed to be a fence between you and them as a closure or as for a defense. And you have a fortified camp of your palisade, opposed to their palisade. You're not supposed to cross over to that palisade, Judah. That fence is to remain. So as you look at that, as you build your trench to go under this fence to reach her with her paper. What paper? Again, that's G 5482 at the etymology, that you're going to get a palisade or a pale sheet, a pale paper, or a cortes of that original meaning, G 5489 for paper. So what do you have now? What do you do now? Well, you got to know, you have to go now to research this pale. What is this pale? Go take a look at pale now in your Strong Concordance. Go back to your search box. Now that we have the paper, go to the pale. How do you get to the pale? Well, you see P-A-P-E-R. You see P-A-P-E-R from right to left. Actually, from left to right. From left to right, you see P-A-P-E-R. From left to right in English. And I'll write to you not in ink or with pen, but pen today in English. I wrote in Hebrew from right to left. From right to left. But you write today from left to right. P-A-P-E-R. But now if you leave that P there, since you prefer to write, you prefer to R-I-T-E, not R-I-G-H-T. Now I want you to R-I-T-E, not R-I-G-H-T. You don't have the R-I-G-H-T to be with them. You do not have the R-I-G-H-T to be with them in that paper, but that paper is white. Your pen is black. So write P and then write A. Now remove the P. Actually, write paper, since that's the subject. Write P-A-P-E-R. You have that. Now, write it again. Write P-A, remove the P, and put an L. You got it? Now you have the L, right? Now, Remove the E and the R, and just bring back the E and leave the R out. Take the R away. I mean, you have P-A-L, move the R and leave the E. Now you should have P-A-L-E, pale. All right, you have that. Okay. Now that you have that, you have pale. Right? Now go to your concordance and type in P-A-L-E, pale. And just as you had paper 2 times in the King James Version Bible, you have pale 2 times in 2 verses, King James Version Bible. And both times are Hebrew. They may have put the second pale in Revelation, but that's connected to the angel, the same angel that a man wrestled with Jacob. The same angel. Now in Hebrew, you should find H2357. H2357 for pale. Right? And that should take you to the Hebrew word known as kavod. 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 No V. Kavod. That's what it should take you to. You got it? Okay. Now, since you have, there's no etymology. Since you have Kamad under H50, H2357, H2357, then you should see that it's going to take you to be white, or to grow white, or to grow pale. Now you see that white paper is actually a white skin, to be white. To be white. So when you look at that again, H2357, it takes you to be white. To blanch as with shame, and the wax pale. Wax pale. That means this paper is truly to be white skinned and grow white, and there's no etymology. And when you look at Isaiah again, in verse 20, go to Isaiah chapter 29 now. Isaiah chapter 29. When we go back to Isaiah chapter 29 for a moment, and take a look at that. Chapter 29 and verse 22. It says what? Therefore, thus said the Lord, who redeemed Abraham, concerning the house of Jacob, or Jacob. Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. You should not be with a pale face. The sons of Jacob are not consumed. Israel is not in that verse. In verse 22 of Isaiah chapter 29, Israel is not in that verse. The name or the word you thought was Israel is not in that verse. And when you go back now, take another look, your concordance under pale, again from 2357, H2357. I'm going to read it again. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, who redeemed Abraham, concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall not now be ashamed. Why? Because they're not ashamed. They had not mixed with the mingled pale people, white women. But Israel had. That's why, see, Jacob was not consumed. But Israel have, and they're going to be consumed for doing so. And with Jacob's face, neither shall the face of Jacob, his face, now wax pale. Why? Stand in the law. He's obeying the law. And when you go to Revelation, the only other place in the Bible where you'll find pale Revelation chapter 6. Let's take a look at it. And I read verse 8, Revelation chapter 6, verse 8. I quote, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with the hunger, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." So this pale means someone's going to come in the last days, Shiloh, and he's going to have a pale horse, and he's going to reveal pale, what pale means. And when he does, he's going to kill all of those who are messing with pale. When you go to the Greek, this pale but they put in Greek, it comes from Hebrew, they put on the G 5515. They tell you it means green and yellowish pale. Under the Greek word kruros. But then they take the etymology on the G 5514. It tells him it means a Christian woman of Corinthians. I speak the truth. That means this pale woman is a Christian woman of Corinthians. That's where they are in Europe. Only the Christ can tell you that. That's who this pale is what the Greeks know. So when we go back now to the subject, God gave her white paper. That her is a pale woman of Europe. A pale woman of Europe. And your pen, Judah, Jacob, Israel. So you look at P-E-N and then you have a space I-S. Now what you need to do is put the P-E-N and put the I next to the N and the I, the S next to that. P-E-N-I-S together. It's black. So we'll give you the right, R-I-G-H-T, to mix with the pale. The women of Europe. Don't you know they only want you so they can try to get in heaven? They don't care anything of me. They'll tell you that. They will. It's scripture in it. They will come and be silly women, carried away captive, and creep in houses, especially where I am, to see if they can be accepted. Why do you think they come to me and I give them a name that's connected to the devil? Finally, as we close, remember, no matter who they tell you and how much they tell you that they are and how much they love you, they really don't. I'm going to read this again. I'm going to prove it that you cannot. I don't change, neither can they change. We didn't make them to change. God gave her white paper. I'm quoting from my post again, so now you know it. God gave her white paper, and your pen is black. Now, what do ye write, Judah? And that ye means all of ye. You don't have the right. So you're not, now, don't you know that a bastard will not enter into the kingdom of heaven? And you cannot get into heaven. You cannot go where my Father is unless you come to me. Two scriptures before we close. First, when you mix a seed with another nation, when Judah mixes a seed with another nation, that child comes out of the womb as a bastard. And that's a law. I'm the lawgiver, Shiloh. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 2. Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 2. And that reads, as I quote, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. That's a law. I'm Shiloh bringing it back. What is bastard? What does this bastard mean? It comes from Hebrew. It comes from memzar. And what it means, a bastard, a child of incest, illegitimate child, an illegitimate child, a mixed population. That's under G 4464. No etymology. Strong's 44, H 44, 64. A mixed population. There will not be a mixed population of children coming to me and enter the kingdom of heaven with my and myself. That's the meaning. Look at the meanings. You have number 3 meaning, born of a Jewish father and a heathen mother, or vice versa, or vice versa. That's a bastard. I don't give a damn who they are, what their name is, how small or how big. They will not enter into my congregation with my father. But I should obey the law. I'm Shiloh. I'm bringing the law back. I'm the lawgiver. So now you know one of the mysteries on why the white women are coming to my black men to want to marry them, to pretend like they love you and want a child. I am who I am. It said that a sword would come the last day. Well, I'm the sword. I don't care how much you think. You thought I love you. What do I look like? God loving my enemy. I tell my disciples to do that as a sign of wisdom. Why? Because vengeance is mine. I'll get your enemies. They're mine. So you love them. Love what? Love to see them destroyed. You're going to love to see my enemies destroyed. So love them. Again, bastard comes from the Hebrew word mamzer. Mamzer. And it means bastard, child of incest, illegitimate child, a bastard, a mixed population, born of a Jewish father or Hebrew, Yehudite, born of a Yehudite. See, Jew comes from the word Judah. When you look up Jew or Jewish, it's of Yehudite. It says of the Judah tribe, descendants, Judah, and a heathen mother, or vice versa. And a heathen mother is not necessarily of white skin or paper skin. So you better teach your women, man, how to be righteous. You don't want a bastard. The second meaning of bastard is only 2 scriptures. The other is in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 6. That says, and a bastard shall dwell in a shard, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines of Europe. Same meaning, H 44:64. You can't change the meaning. Same meaning, different scripture. Two verses in the whole Bible. Bastard. And if you think for one moment that they love you, then I strongly suggest that you look at the scripture in your Bible and tell me if a leper can change your spots. You know, a leper has more than one spot. Well, take a look at Yirmiyahu, chapter 13, and verse 23. Jeremiah, chapter 13, verse 23, and it says, I quote, can the Ethiopian woman or Ethiopian, oh man, it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman, can an Ethiopian in Africa change his skin color or her skin color? Can the black Ethiopian skin complexion woman, man or woman in Ethiopia, in Africa, change his skin? Or the leper, his spots? And if you answer that question, if you can answer yes, then go ahead and marry Judah. Go ahead and marry a white woman from Europe. Let her be your sweetheart. As the rest says, then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. End quote. That means no matter who you see that are evil, and you think they can do good, they cannot. They're born of their father, the devil. John 8:44. They are the father of the devil. They cannot. There's no good in. There's no good in them. So no matter how hard they try to do good, they cannot. They were born evil, and they have an evil soul inside of them. But all souls are mine. Doesn't matter if they're good or evil. They're mine. They're going to be destroyed. That's what happened before on this planet when they were evil. The whole planet was destroyed with water. This time by fire. I speak the truth. So there you have it. I thought you would want to know the mystery of that parable I left on social media, Facebook. That's not all of it. I just gave you what you need. That right, remember that right is not W-R-I-T-E. So you don't have the right to mix with them. R-I-G-H-T. That's the answer to the question. The answer to the question. But that said, I'm going to say to out of those who bear it long enough to stay and listen to this revelation. You didn't leave, but you stayed and take it all. Take it up. Anyway, stay safe, Judah. Come out of her, my people. Come out. Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins and receive not of her plagues of the paper. That's like paperweight. Shalom Aleichem.